guys, welcome to Super Little Challenges. I'm Daniel Thomas and my guest today is Matt Barrios. Matt is a researcher, writer and coach based in San Francisco who has helped many people grow into greater confidence and clarity. His research interests focus on the intersection of home, personal growth and human-centered design. We chat about these themes and also how fatherhood is a bit of a game changer. Enjoy this one, guys. Let's go. Is there a personal challenge you've overcome on your own journey, and how has that led you to where you are now?
I would say the biggest, most recent, grand challenge I faced has had to do with becoming a stay-at-home dad for a season of my life. And I was previously working a variety of different jobs, from academia to real estate to church work, like just all sorts of different things. And then eventually, we had our baby, and she's so sweet and pleasant. But me and my wife, we were like, we both want to work full time, but we can't actually do that and raise a kid. And so I bit the bullet and became a stay-at-home dad. And I tell you what, man, that's no joke when it comes to challenges, obstacles. It's just daily, constant, and unpredictable all at the same time. So yeah, I'd say that's like the biggest thing that has been a challenge for me recently.
It's awesome that you've made that choice as a family. Like it's kind of going against the mold of traditions, right? I also, even in through the pandemic, like I had a lot of time with my son, and because I've often had more of like a freelance thing going on, I was able to have more time with him. But like you say, I imagine I know it comes with a whole lot of issues when all your spaces are blended into one, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And there's no sidestepping it. It's like full speed ahead family time constantly, and I would have to say that nap time became this bastion of, it's an oasis in the day. And as soon as the baby's down, me and my wife have some time to connect. And it is so funny the way baby stuff multiplies and ends up taking over the house. As much as me and my wife are really tending to be like less is more types of people, baby stuff, it works on its own time frame and its own multiplication schedule, and it just kind of grows and takes over. So yeah, that's definitely one of those things that I noticed that got to me as a person who doesn't really like clutter and all of that. But just to double down, it's the unpredictability of it, of raising a kid, that was the most challenging part. And I like uncertainty. I like unpredictability. I'm trained in improv comedy. I jump into scenes and I figure it out, right? But there's something different when it's just a unpredictable need.
Yeah.
It's just
for sure.
What does she need? I can't interpret these grunts, so yeah, that's a big challenge. The way that it's played out just in the last couple months, the last month, our baby is now in a little daycare thing. So that's providing a ton of new space for me. So I'm really, really grateful for that.
You're right about that oasis. I remember with my son, just that 2 or 3 hour nap block was this is the streamlined time that I have to get everything physically imaginable done before he's up and demanding obviously, naturally attention's demanding stuff.
Yes, exactly. And it starts from the moment they wake up. They're just I need, give me, whatever, right? And it's not even using those words yet. My baby still doesn't have those words, but it's just she wants to talk and be entertained and read books and be played with. And me and my wife would rather sleep a little bit longer, but
it's classic.
That's the name of the game.
Yeah, it's a real cliche, but because my son's 10 now and time flies. So I remember that stage that you're in as being really intense and hectic and wonderful.
Yeah.
And now time has, like, now he's off to high school. It's really cliche, but
Wow.
it's crazy. And I've said to a few friends, this first 10 years, and I imagine for yourself, in our lives, it felt like, particularly primary school and things, it felt like this endless stretch of time. But when you're a parent, that block of time, it's just gone in a flash. So personally, I'm just really proud that I've been there for like the real key moments in this 10-year block. But listening to you speak, it's like taking me back to that. It's very easy, I think, to fall into like survival mode and just react. And so to find boundaries and personal space and everything within that, it can become a real shit show, to be honest.
Yeah, for reals. It totally can.
So how have you found ways to like address that, like find your own personal, because I've always said, for me to be the best father I can be, there's things that I kind of need to function at my best. So it's best for me to have those kind of in place so that I can be the best father. If the things I need sort of go out the window, it's not necessarily best for my child.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think this is something I'm starting to get my head above water on over the last couple of months with a little bit of extra time. And the biggest things that are proving to be helpful include going to the gym. I do weight training. That's just like beyond helpful for my mental state, my, just like positive outlook on life. I remember going to the gym and it felt like a chore. It felt like, oh man, I gotta go work out, go exert myself and what have you. But now it honestly feels like the spa every time I go. I'm like, oh, I actually get to like go take care of myself and like, pop in the earbuds and like listen to some music and like be good to go. And sometimes I work out with a friend of mine and like we get to chat. And so it's friend time too. So I would say the combination of like gym time being so crucial for me to feel good, plus time with friends. So I'm a big fan of having a set of buddies who are my spontaneous phone call friends, and we just drop in on each other's lives whenever. And there was no agreement made or anything like that. It was just like I started doing that with them. They started doing that with me. I don't even know who started. But
are they fathers as well, or?
You know what? Let's see. One of them's a father, and then 4 of them are not. Yeah. So
yeah. I remember it being not to overuse the term, but I remember it being a bit challenging. For other guys to understand the perspective, because again, cliches, but having a little one's just a complete game changer, and I found a lot of trivial stuff becomes quite insignificant. So stuff that friends might be kind of tussling with can seem a little trivial.
Totally.
Not to take away from other people's. Everyone has their own
sure
struggles.
Just
right?
like, oh, you're still frustrated with work. All right. Well, we've had this conversation for the last 6 months. Okay. Well, I guess I'm still having the same conversation of being frustrated with not sleeping very well. So, I suppose it all balances out in the end.
Yeah. Yeah. So how are you navigating it in a spatial sense? Have you like the boundaries and things in the home?
Yeah, what we're doing the classic San Francisco thing, which is you have your baby in the closet. A lot of spaces can be quite small. We live in I'd say spacious, but 1-bedroom apartment technically, and we have this gigantic closet off of our bedroom that's almost like a 2-level closet. It's like 2 levels deep. And we just have our baby in the closet on like the
Literally
closer level, like literally in the closet. And it's large enough to fit a whole crib in there and a changing table and all of that. So it's like a baby sized room. Like it really works for a 1.5-year-old,
so
2-year-old, right?
Even the place was designed as a 3-bedroom place or whatever it is. It's actually a 4-bedroom when you count the closet.
Essentially, right? Like it's crazy because, yeah, I mean, these like, I mean, side note, you know, I know I'm talking to a guy who has some like architecture background and everything. So like getting to be in an older building like this, back when, you know, this building was built in like the 1920s. And I think space just was so readily available then. All of the new construction now in San Francisco, every space is just so tiny. Like a 1-bedroom, it's ultra compact and really hard to like find a way to have a manageable life in. But the old buildings are where it's at because there's actually a ton of space, high ceilings, all of it. So we love where we live. And it includes these funny things like, and it was even part of our search when we were trying to find out where to live. We just figured out we got pregnant and we're like, we need a baby-sized closet. That's what we need. We did 1-bedroom with a baby-sized closet, and we're good to go.
It's good to know, actually. Yeah, consider for people can consider the closet. I mean, in architecture, I mean, I just learned through experience. But I always thought it was crazy that basically you can call a room whatever you want, right? Yeah. And the issue in Australia with what you're saying is completely different. We kind of have endless space, like, and the cities sprawl out, whereas living in Europe now, it's much more high density, but like evenly spread. And people find it hard for me. But I'm not a fan of like skyscrapers and a center that just has skyscrapers. I really love it in Europe here with this very balanced high density living because it's more like a village. And you don't have these buildings towering over you. So even though Hamburg's quite a big city, it's got this village feel to it. And that's the human that's like the human thing. Like I can just jump on my bike and ride down to my mates and stuff. Whereas in Australia, like it's very much car culture, even though it's a beautiful country and there's obviously amazing beaches and nature, which is a whole nother thing. The actual inner city living is quite spread. So people have huge places and can probably navigate finding the space that you're talking about a bit easier, you know?
Yeah. Oh, that sounds really good. In Hamburg, how many like stories are like the average building?
It's interesting because there's laws around keeping them at a certain level. So the one we're in is 4 stories. Generally, they're like 4 or 5 stories, and there's a real community to it. And I could really go on about because there's not a lot of people buy here either. So there's a whole different mentality here because in the apartments you can actually do whatever you like to them. And I wasn't used to this coming from Australia. Yeah. So you could put your own kitchen in, you can, so the first apartment I ever got here, I was under a bit of pressure to get it quickly and I was trying to negotiate the contract and the guy was like, I'm going to take the kitchen. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, you, what? And then I was like, I think I'm misunderstanding your German. And he said, no, I'm taking the kitchen and I'm taking the floor with me. And I was like, what are you talking? You can't take you can't take the kitchen and the floor.
Like remove all the cabinets and the sink and everything. And
so he had kind of retrofitted his own kitchen and he put in a new vinyl floor. And what I realized was he was trying to get out quick and he actually didn't want to do the work to take him out. So he was just trying to get some money off me. So that he didn't. See. So then I was like, I went back to him and I'm like, take the kitchen and the floor. And then he's like,
he called his bluff.
I called his bluff. I was pretty happy. I was pretty happy. I was like, take it. And then he's like, oh, okay, how much are you willing? And I got the price down, and I got to keep the kitchen and the floor. But I was spinning out, because in Australia, you know, if you leave a scratch on your kitchen bench, you lose your bond and you can't do anything. Yeah. So in Germany, you feel much more at home in rentals, because you can actually kind of make them feel like you own it in a way. And there's also laws. There's also laws around renting that protect you. So they're really strong on the law, so you can't be kind of easily evicted and stuff.
That's great.
I've gone on a bit of a tangent, but it's all relative. It's all relative to space and how you navigate.
Exactly.
How you navigate space. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, in our place here, old building, beautiful, all wood floors, definitely creaky as I walk through the night, trying to not wake the baby. And so I'd say like the big finds for us that we've taken advantage of, because we have our main bedroom, but there's also this interesting, they call it the bonus room, when they were like telling us about it. It doesn't have a closet or windows, so it can't technically be considered a bedroom in, you know, the state of California or whatever. But it's actually a good size room, so we have a whole full size bed over there. And when we really, really need sleep and we need to not be up with the crying baby, we take full advantage of that extra bed. I sleep there, you know, 3 out of 4 nights basically. And my wife will join me for part of the night, then she'll like go help the baby part of the night. Like, that's just what's worked for us, so that I can be fresh in the morning to be on baby duty first thing. So it's funny, this like weird dance that happens in a living environment where it is about not optimizing, because I don't think this is, you know, optimal necessarily, but it is just finding what is useful and workable for us in the flow of life, and helps us wake up and be ready to go, and helps us tend to the needs of our baby. So that's part of what, you know, flow and whatnot of life with sleep and baby looks like uniquely in our place.
Yeah, it's unique to your space, and it's like, as you say, finding like this, call it as a safety zone within what you have, that extra bed.
Yeah, it's so nice.
Yeah,
really helpful.
And then the mental space is a whole nother thing. Like you say, getting out, having that block, like you say, it's like a luxury. Going to the gym is like a luxury, because it gives you that thing you need for yourself, and that recharge to then get back. Even though you're pumping weights or whatever, it gives you that recharge to get back in the storm.
No joke. That's exactly it. That's an apt metaphor for sure, because it can feel like it. And it is so strange. Like, I've had conversations with people who are like power lifters, bodybuilders. This is their life, is going to the gym and picking up heavy things, you know? And massive respect for that. That's not like my approach. I still want to like get fit and be strong and whatever, but this is like a fraction of a corner of my life, you know? And an important one, but even still. And I found that like for folks who are all about gym life and fitness and whatever, they also are really good at setting up their lives at home for that too. So they're thinking optimal nutrition. They're thinking, how do I make sure that I have things in my space so that I can move and get a quick little exercise snack in day by day. And I mean, that's like a great way to think about it. And if I were like really dedicated to being ultra fit, that's probably what I would do, is like think about how to bring fitness home a little bit more than leave it at the gym.
Yeah, it's really tricky when home and work is one. I've found it's taken me a fair bit of like adjustment to get. It's a really tricky thing to balance, like the home office and the parenting.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've definitely found that. I've got a workstation here in our. It's blurred in the background right now, but this is our bedroom, and it's also my office, and it's like a good workstation. Got a nice big screen and stuff. But also my baby's bedroom is like right over there in that closet, and so it's like, okay, nap time. I can't be working here. I have to record a podcast or what have you, be on a Zoom call out at the kitchen table. So there's like a funny navigation of space, especially when our baby was home full time. Now that she's in daycare, I can be more intentional about bracketing things off. That's been a godsend, man. It's been so helpful to have our baby being taken care of by other people, and she gets to socialize, and she loves playing with all these other kids. And honestly, like at this stage in her life, I think they're doing more for her than I think I was doing for her.
It's interesting. Yeah, from experience, I think the kids getting amongst the other kids, they observe and they have to learn how to like navigate situations. And it's, again, just on the Europe thing, it's interesting. Like I was really confronted when I first came here, because you see really quite young kids like walking home from school by themselves and stuff. The Europe thing is sometimes like get them out there really, really young.
Wow.
And I've appreciated like the not cotton wooling in a way, but it's also pretty confronting, because it's obviously different back home in Australia. So yeah, that's a whole nother. There's so many layers to parenting,
Yeah, and even cross-culturally and everything there, I can't imagine. And maybe this would be like a wonderful conversation. I'd love to have you on my podcast too, and we could just chat about difference in Australian and German.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Parenting and everything. That'd be so fun to have that conversation.
Yeah. There's a lot in it. I'm also fascinated to know about improv comedy, because I've done a heap of acting, more in a dramatic sense, and I did a comedy improv class here once, and I just remember my take from it was kind of fearlessness in a way, like
yes, that's it,
which is awesome. I was like, wow, this is just go for it, like just like you said before, find the scene within it.
Exactly. Yeah.
How long did you do that for?
I did it for about 5 years. I was fresh, moved to San Francisco. Before that, I was in LA, and a number of my friends were doing improv, and had that bug of like, man, I would love to do improv, but was just about to move to San Francisco. Ended up finding a theater and a good friend who I worked with to go through classes with. And so we joined 101 improv classes, like fresh start. And I know a lot of people are kind of intimidated by doing improv. It is a scary thing. I mean, like, there's no doubt about it. But I would encourage anybody who's like afraid but interested to go sign up for a 101 class, because you're there with a bunch of people who are also all afraid but interested, and also don't know what they're doing. So nobody's expected to be good at this thing yet. Everybody's a beginner together. And I've found that to be one of the most like welcoming, supportive environments. It became one of my communities that I really like dug into in San Francisco. So much that I kept doing it for another several years, went through all of the classes, auditioned to be on a house team, and was on a house team at this theater in San Francisco, performing there, every week, every other week for a year and a half. And so I've put my reps in on improv comedy, and it was great.
Awesome, Mike. I imagine it. There's a lot that you can take from it into life, right? Like it's when you're confronting like the reps, as you say, confronting fear, and like isn't the improv stuff about sort of saying yes? Isn't that one of the?
That's exactly it. Yeah. The yes and of it.
The yes and.
Yeah. So because improv is all about like maintaining forward energy, maintaining positivity, maintaining a supportive environment as a team, and jumping with 2 feet into uncertainty. But you do it all together, and the way that you're able to fly with it is by everybody just being in agreement. Yes, yes, that is it. That is what's happening. Yes. And not only that, but to be able to keep adding to it. So like you're building this, building with blocks, building with Legos together, a scene basically, and each block is built on the other. And yeah, I found it to be so helpful for things, thinking of where it crosses over. I've got a very, very high tolerance for uncertainty and fast moving now, like on every like job application or whatever. Since I started doing that, now I'm just like, oh yeah, high tolerance for uncertainty and moving quickly and ideation and so on. Right, like I'm really, really good at that. It requires a ton of teamwork too, and high communication, and creating a culture that is supportive. So we as a team, we would hang out outside of when we were doing improv. It was just like so friendly and positive. And every time you go out on stage, like a ritual and a common ritual in improv is you look in the eye of every person that you're on a team with and you say, I got your back. I got your back. I got your back. And I mean, I'm getting chills thinking about it, but I think everybody wants to hear somebody say that to them. And I think for a lot of people, you also want to like have your people you say that and you mean that too, and I found that in that community. And so I found that that's crossed over to teams that I work with where I just feel like I got your back, or with me and my wife raising our baby, like I got your back, she's got my back, and we know it. So there's a strong sense of togetherness. So I could keep going. There's like tons and tons of crossover between practicing improv and the ways that it applies to life. It's a really, really an incredible creative practice that has tons of carryover.
What a cool bond and community. I know from acting classes, when those boundaries get kind of dropped pretty quickly, you tend to open up and bond with people and have it like a community pretty quickly. But in what you're saying is so healthy, in that people are, to hear people say, I've got you. You just, I don't think we hear that often enough,
Yeah. And, these folks who I was doing this with, like they were all invited to the wedding, when we got married, like they became tight friends. And, people move away and whatever, and we lost touch with some of them, but some of them continued to be amazing friends. And I'm like, I'm beyond grateful for that culture of support that was there. And we're just watching out for each other in ways that were so affirming and positive. And, the other big community that I've had in San Francisco has been through church, like religious stuff. And that religious spiritual community, it's been really great in other ways. Like one thing that my maybe improv community lacked was the ability to not joke, but to be in very like serious, we're going through hard times conversations, and like take it seriously and listen seriously. And that's something that I would say my religious community has been really helpful for when people are going through hard stuff and need to be like truly vulnerable and even break down. That's been a gift of that community. So it is so weird, like how sometimes you kind of need different groups of people to care for different dimensions of life.
What an awesome balance of like the two, like you say, the kind of fun, positive thing, but then the deeper faith thing.
Yeah.
It's not as simple as having like one thing that covers all,
Right.
and
you kind of, I was just going to say, like, I kind of hope maybe you could find that in like maybe a romantic partner who you're going to like spend your life with, like somebody who can joke with and also go deep with and be active with and like be a couch potato with, right? Like,
true.
Yeah. So
across the board.
Yeah. And maybe that is one of the searches, is like that ability to connect on so many different dimensions with
and
a
I
person.
I think with Disconnection kind of at the level it is these days. I mean, I've said it before, but it's awesome through this technology like that you and I can have a conversation like this. We've never met. We're on opposite sides of the world, and we just, that's amazing. But but generally, everybody in their houses on their phones, and a lack of these groups or communities. I know I feel it. Like a month ago, I was just sitting around the fire with some mates, like around a fire in the park here, and I was just like, man, it's just so important, like just even as a group of dudes, to just sit around the fire and tell stories.
Yes.
So healthy. And I, with my son, we did the same, played some music out the back, but it's these groups and communities. Like for me, martial arts was a big one.
Oh, that's cool.
I had a very close training partner and teacher, and Sean and Darian, absolute legends. But I took so much from that into, the martial arts can get a little bit philosophical, but also in a practical way. Like same with you in improv. Like I took so much of that into life.
Oh, absolutely. I've heard that from some of my friends. Like one of my best friends, John, he's big into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and it's like requires tons of discipline, a lot of like focus, intelligence, like calculated movement, training physically, and you're just like you can't help but be very close to people when you're sparring with them, and I even think, like, again, to maybe get a little philosophical, but I think there's a thing among men in community around like touch, and maybe it's, I don't know if it's being an American man or whatever, but I just feel like it's abnormal for me to like grab another guy and like, give him a big hug, put my arm around him, something like that. Like that's what I very reserved for like my absolute closest dudes, but it seems like there's a certain sort of ease of touch and whatever that is like a dimension of connection and intimacy that is just normal to being a human being. And that it seems like that's something that martial arts training, even like when I'm at the gym with my buddy, like it allows for a little bit more of that, like the kind of like help hoist you up, like help you physically sort of thing.
For sure. It's kind of cool just to roll around in the mud. And that physicality, like you say, like I think there is something to that. As much as we need to protect our own space, it's like there is something for that. Like, it's a bit weird, but I was in bands as well. I've had quite a diverse creative life, but bands can often those relationships can get tense. It's kind of a brotherhood, and one band I was in that got quite tense. My singer and I were both training in martial arts, and after the whole like 2-3 year band experience, there was some, there was, what do you call it, a residual from the band time, some unresolved stuff. And in a very safe way, we said to each other, "Why don't we meet and spar like with each other?"
Smart.
Now, if this was a stranger, it's probably not a good idea, right? But this was a very trusting mateship, and we realized actually it was funny because for the first 15 minutes he was like kind of hammering me, and I just wasn't, because we had very different styles, and I was kind of struggling to deal with what he was throwing at me, and then as you've mentioned, like the adaptability, I was able to like stop trying to conform to what he was doing. I started doing my own thing, and then I kind of the momentum shifted to me. Wow. But anyway, by the end of this session, it was almost like we had healed some of that stuff. It was very healthy, and I'm really not recommending like that people like go out and beat each other up, but this was a trusting kind of way to do it, and it was healthy, I think.
Yeah, I think so much of conflict, anger, bitterness, like it's just held physically in us, I think, like there's that feeling in our chest or our shoulders or whatever it might be where we hold some anger or bitterness. And it really makes sense to me that working it out physically with that person would be really helpful for just diffusing that energy. That's awesome. I want to try that. That sounds really, really helpful. I'm not trained in martial arts at all. Just get my ass kicked, but like, it could work maybe.
Yeah, just it's some sort of healthy, even if you've just got like boxing mitts or something and I'm not sure what's best, but it goes back to this, what we're saying about like a sense of community and I've got your back. It's that I've got your back thing again. Mm-hmm. Like we can do this in a trusting way.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. And it takes a particular actually kind of intimate, close friendship to be able to do that sort of thing with, where I actually got your back so much that we're going to duke it out for a while so that we can get through this and like move on with our lives and move on with our friendship and whatever, and not have to like deal with all this residual stuff. That's really, really smart. That's something, honestly, that I need to get a lot better at. I literally just yesterday had a long conversation with a buddy of mine who he and I just kind of had like a falling out, like a small one, like years ago. But like just the small thing that just kind of like kept widening a gap. And on some level, honestly, man, I was just like avoiding it. I was like, oh, man, life's already hard. I don't want to have to like go back and have this conversation and deal with this again and whatnot. But he reached out to me and it was the time. It was the time to like fully clear the air. I was ready. He was ready. And it was surprising, man, how easy it was. It was like so surprising.
Yeah.
But all of this energy that I was putting towards avoiding that or just wanting to forget about it or something. Instead, we just went into it and the conversation took like 10 minutes that were slightly challenging. And then we could just like talk about life and catch up and what have you. And it was really, really good. So I'm like connecting to that. We didn't have the ability. He's living in a different place than I am. We couldn't spar it out for a while, but like to be able to have that conversation and clear it up was really, really valuable.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like time and place. You can often have like these silent fallouts and then create like a scenario. But then when you actually get together years later, and it's an interesting time and place. But adaptability and like presence and stuff, it's really comes to the fore in parenting, right? It's like being a parent. I've said it sort of just. It holds a mirror up to you and your flaws. But I imagine, like you've said, you wrote on your resume, ability to deal with change.
Yeah, exactly.
Some people go. I guess some people go into parenthood and they're maybe not as equipped. And I just know how much patience, presence, and adaptability. is required, particularly in those early years.
Absolutely. I think that's definitely the case. And when I'm thinking about it, as a person who on some level like actually thrives in uncertainty and like fast-paced change, weirdly, like living with that day in, day out with a baby, that's a whole different beast, man. Like even for a person like me who is like totally cool with that, it challenged the limits of that for me. And I could tap into some like improv training or whatever for a while. And I still definitely do that to make up games and funny scenarios for my baby and my wife. Like that happens day in, day out. And at the same time, like sometimes, bro, I'm tapped out.
Yeah. When it's constantly coming at you, you just lose sight of everything.
Exactly.
The resume goes out the window,
Exactly. It's just like, do I deserve to have that line in my resume or not? I don't know. I've got a close to 2-year-old. I don't think I got it in me anymore. So yeah, it's pretty funny how that works. But still nonetheless, like it is like, so me and my wife, we got married, early 30s, had a baby, mid 30s. And for us, like that meant, some of our friends that we grew up with, they were having kids in their early 20s, mid 20s, right? Like, and we just had a lot more time to like become individuals, I think, on some level, and like have a way we wanted life to be, and had some illusion that we could decide how it was going to be. And I feel like getting married was one level of loss of that kind of independence. And then another level of it was having a kid. And there's no doubt about it to me that like, I don't get to fully control my life. There's some things that I get to do, like carve out time to go to the gym, decide when I go to sleep after the baby's down, right? Like, but there's so many things that are going to be now forever in this dance of the need of a child who will want what she wants when she wants it. And I can say yes, I can say no, I can what have you, but I am not the one in control anymore. And that's hard for a person who loves to be independent and autonomous like myself. Yeah, big learning in that, man. Big learning.
Dance is an awesome way to describe it, like that dance. And how you have your boundaries as well as look after your child's needs. Because like if you're not in the best shape, it's not necessarily best for child. But it's a real tricky balance. Yeah,
it is. Actually, it's so funny. I get to talk to another Aussie right now, but the person who helped me see this, I interviewed him for my podcast. His name was Bart, and he's like a fitness expert guy. And I was talking to him and had a great conversation. He was referring to how he and his partner with their kid, they have a, what do they call it? Like the emergency breathing rule. What is that called when you have to put on your face mask before you put on somebody else's face mask on a plane?
Yeah. It's got a name, hasn't it?
Yeah. Whatever. but that thing on a plane, like please put a face mask on yourself in case of an emergency before you put it on somebody else. And he says that's just how they function. So they know, okay, I actually really need to do what I need to do to take care of myself. Of course, he's from a fitness background, so he's really thinking about that. But nutrition, time alone, time connecting with friends, like time to get inspired and tell stories or what have you. And he and his partner consider it their personal responsibility to make that happen for themselves. And sometimes that requires making that request of their partner and everything. And I have found that to be a very helpful way of thinking about it lately. And yeah, my wife's not responsible for me being fit and eating well. My baby certainly isn't, right? It's my responsibility to do that. And I get to do that because I want to show up best for them and for my friends and at my work. And I think it adds up to like a certain level of really intentional personal responsibility with taking care of myself. And it's something that I haven't always done. And I'm always improving in, I feel.
Yeah, my priorities changed massively when I became a father. It just, I was always thinking, I'm responsible for this little guy now. And it's like, it just shifted everything around my priorities, particularly around, am I going to have a few too many drinks on a Tuesday for the sake of it?
Totally.
Or am I going to be fresh for him the next day? So it's a real game changer. Like it's just priority wise and stuff.
Yeah.
And
in a way that actually, there's ways to look at that, like, oh, my kid's limiting me, or something like that. Or there's a way to look at it. It's like my kid's focusing me. My kid's like, helping me.
It's interesting you say that. So when my son was born, because I was just embarking on a creative career in film and stuff. And at that time I was like, well, realistically, your creative career is possibly out the window here, moving to Europe is like realistically, but actually it's been the opposite. Like he's enhanced my creative life more than I ever could have imagined,
That's
and
amazing.
He challenges me to be present and like you said, the games, we play this laughing game where you have to make the other person laugh. I guess it's a little bit improv like, but
that's great.
Sometimes I just wouldn't be in the mood, and he'd be like, come on, Papa, let's play the laughing game. And it's the same, sometimes when we try and do too much, it like you don't laugh, like it gets too, but when we just do the little things, we crack each other up. And my partner, she often doesn't want to because she feels she can't make us laugh, but we come up with these games. But my point is, he's really enhanced my
That's amazing.
He's enhanced things, so it's really cool. But
that's cool.
To bring it home, I often like it if guests can suggest some sort of challenge for listeners, and being as your focus is around these boundaries and how you can call it enhance the life at home. Do you have a challenge?
Yeah, I think my challenge, maybe in light of this conversation, I feel like I might have come into this conversation with a different one, but no.
Interesting.
It's
really
a riff,
interesting.
It's a riff on the one that I came in with, but my challenge would be to host people for a meal. I think the most powerful thing that I found that homes can be is a place of connection. Now, the riff on it that's coming out of this conversation is, and make it a goal to laugh as much as possible.
Awesome.
During that time when you're having somebody over for dinner. So it is getting into that improv state of mind, like and you can prep ahead of time, right, for this. Like, think about who you're inviting over. What makes them laugh? Is it telling stories? Is it hearing their stories? Are they people who like to laugh at their own stories mostly? And so you just got to pull stories out of them? Or do they like to quote funny TV shows that you have in common? Is it that you would actually jump into an improv scene or make the kids laugh or what have you? So I think that would be the challenge. Host people for a good meal and make the goal laugh as much as possible.
That is a very cool challenge, I must say. And it goes back to what we were saying about community and connectedness and stuff. So it's all connected. But to add the laughing thing on is super cool. Really.
Yeah. I'm excited to try it.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's awesome. Likewise. Now, well, yeah, we could keep going, but we'll wrap it up. It's been really awesome just to riff on all this stuff, parenting and improv and how to find space within the chaos of being a new parent and stuff. Very cool.
Yeah. It was so fun, man. Thank you for an awesome conversation. I loved even getting to talk Hamburg architecture and those kinds of things too. And the time you duked it out with your buddy to clear the air. Those are good things. I loved it.
For sure. Well, to be continued. And thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.